What's happening, folks? Back with another reaction, back with some more Dead Pioneers and more from the We Save Us playlist. Thank you again to Kim, as well as Yvonne and Michaela, who've contributed to this larger playlist, which we'll be going through for the next week and a half. And this one actually comes from 2023, so it's not from the Post-American album, and it's attached to the same Tears for Fears quote, the end of need and the politics of greed from Sowing the Seeds of Love. And it's called Whirled Up My Ass, which sounds very uncomfortable and painful. I wonder if that's part of the meaning, the idea of something which is so unpleasant as to feel like it is a constant burden on you. Of course, it could be about critiquing the world as it exists in both a comprehensive sense, but again, specifically in a socioeconomic sense, the idea of, that's where it belongs because it's that unpleasant. But yeah, I will note that Kim said this one is short and sweet, so again, with a bit of an old school punk feel, because, the punk that I became most initially gravitated toward is early 80s punk, where a lot of bands would have 1 minute, minute and a half long songs where they just come right at you with very direct lyrics, and boom, the song's over. So yes, I expect this to be something like that. Let's give it a listen and see what it's all about. This is Dead Pioneers. The track is Whirled Up My Ass, and it's given the parenthetical explicit, so maybe there's another version of this tune where it's less explicit, but yes, Whirled Up My Ass from 2023. I got the world up my ass and I'm running up fast, in the flesh, walking the rest. I got the world up my ass. Society, burn me up, take a bite, spit it out, take their rules, rip them up, tear them down, twist your mind with their brain. You know I'm gonna say, I just come, get back when they tell me how to act. I got the world up my ass. You know I got the world up my ass. Society, burn me up, take a bite, spit it out, take their rules, rip them up, tear them down. It really is short and sweet. It really is 80s style, and I would say even more specifically, it feels very True Sounds of Liberty. That sounds like TSOL from the early 80s. Wow. Like even the vocals have a bit of that sound, and I'm very fond of TSOL. So yes, as you can see here and over there, although the trigger point is from like 2013 or something, it's much more recent. But yes, that feels not only early 80s punk in its sound and its attitude, but even more narrowly, that feels like a TSOL track from like 81, 82. In any case, it feels like this is about how unpleasant, uncomfortable, and intolerable the world is, not only in terms of its burden, but also the strictures, the rules that are set down from on high and enforced, sometimes through very violent means, to, again, keep most of the people down here and a very few of the people up here who not only benefit from that the most materially, but even like psycho-emotionally begin to take on this, godlike attitude in terms of controlling other people's lives and dehumanizing them. So yes, the idea of ripping up those rules, tearing down the system, and perhaps building something new and better in its place that is more equitable, more pluralistic, and more legitimately democratic and free, rather than just using words like that as buzzwords, paying lip service to the ideas, but actually in practice enforcing a very different socio-cultural vision and system. So yeah, again, it feels very early 80s in its attitude and ethos, which, as someone who loves, again, TSOL, Early Bad Religion, Bad Brains, Subhumans, and a number of bands that are sort of in that anarcho-punk mold from the 80s, this stuff is very up my alley. but thankfully I do not have the world up my ass. Nevertheless, I did want to comment. This one was, again, more gritty, kind of gutter anarcho-punk. But the previous tune, the Working Class Warfare, that one actually felt, I won't say melodic. It's not like it was a, melodic punk tune like, sometimes used for certain bands, especially some bands from the 90s, or like melodic hardcore. But it definitely had a bit more melody and like consonant sound, relatively speaking, than the other ones I've heard from them. So I forgot to comment on that in the outro of the previous reaction, so I'm doing it here. But again, this one was very in that rough and anarcho-punk, in the gutter type of type of atmosphere sonically. I'll stop talking. I do blabber a lot when I listen to punk rock. Let me know what you think, and I'll see you for the next one. Peace.